passe super. L'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. 25 points. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
As we sit down to discuss what could have been the greatest day of handball action at the quarterfinal stage of the Paris Olympics, I'm finding myself wondering who exactly was the main character of the day. Was it Gonzalo Perez de Vargas, who broke Egyptian hearts with a last-minute save and an outstanding performance? Was it Simon Puklik, who continued to show that he is a star in this tournament and knocked out Sweden? Was it the Buenaventura sisters, who may have contributed to that knockout of Sweden? But you might also say that it's Vincent Girard, who proved all doubters wrong with an insane 24 saves. Or you might look to his compatriot, Dika Mem, who had an outstanding performance and then made a little mistake at the end, which broke many hearts in the Pierre Mauroy arena. But you'll probably say that it's Renars Uschins, who had one of the most phenomenal games I've ever seen, pure heart, to bring Germany to the semi-final of the Olympics. But either way, there's a lot to talk about. And for that, we've got Chris O'Reilly here. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good, Alex. That was a great intro and has me wondering who the real main character is on this day. Full of disappointments, yet joy. I don't know. We have a lot to unpack in this one, I reckon.
A lot to unpack. And for that, we've brought in some extra muscle with Ola Selby from Handball's Canalen to discuss the games. How you doing, Ola?
I'm good. It's kind of mixed feelings with the men's team. Good game, but still eliminated. So, yeah, a lot to talk about.
You know, it was an insane day. How was it for you guys in the arena? Like, how do you survive? I remember the last men's European Championship I saw in Sweden, and there was this insane semi-final game between Croatia and Norway at the time, and then everything drained for the second game. People just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And today there was an insane game that not that many people saw because it was really early, followed by just Germany-France becoming, just whatever happened there. And then after that, Denmark-Sweden also put on a barnstormer. How did you survive?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest. Like, I was already in a bad mood after the first game, so the only way was up after that. And Ola had the joy of speaking to the Swedish women's team at the time. But yeah, when I think the team that we've all been cheering for as us neutrals in the sport, Egypt, begin by throwing away chance at a major victory against Spain. It's difficult to pick yourself up after that, but France and Germany was a great way to do that. So, there were long breaks between the games. I think that was key for it. And when it comes to the atmosphere in the arena, they just got rid of the 20-odd thousand people and brought in a whole new 20-odd thousand people for each game. So, which says a lot about the actual amount of tickets sold. These weren't double games or triple games. These were individual games. People were getting
individual
tickets for.
games. Oh wow!
Yeah. There was basically 4 hours from start to start. So each game was a ticket on its own. And so lots and lots of sweet money for Paris 2024.
We won't go in chronological order. I think we have to start with that insane game between France and Germany. Germany surprising everyone, I think, despite being probably the better team in the tournament, winning 35-34 after extra time, 29-29 at full time, and France somehow let that happen, despite being 2 goals up with 14 seconds to go, then having the ball with 4 seconds to go, calling a timeout, and we've seen it. How many times have we seen it in handball?
Too often.
That no one can just... I just don't know what it is about handball in that moment, in that second, that makes an outstanding player like Dika Mem just capitulate and throw away a ball. It was crazy. You know what? Like, was that a huge surprise for everyone in the arena? Was everyone dead at that time?
Yeah, I mean, the excitement and the atmosphere went from pretty crazy. I mean, it was very... I mean, it can't get very much louder than it was at that point, and then it went... I want to say it went completely silent, basically. Yeah. People were definitely in shock. And it's not hard to imagine why.
Yeah, I mean, I had my match report ready, done. It was about like half of an arse cheek off the seat and ready to go down to the mix zone to speak to some jubilant French players, looking forward to my reunion with Vincent Girard, the man I never doubted. And yeah, I mean, why do you take a timeout with 4
exactly
seconds
my
left?
question.
And then they added 2 seconds because, well, I don't know. That's, I guess, when the timeout actually happened. So 6 seconds left in the game. And as you said, we've just seen it so often before. And it was just like this gasp of like a pure terror almost among most of the French fans. Yeah. The Germans had, you know, even though it took them a while to win it. It took them until the end of extra time to win it. It felt like they'd won it at that point. Looking at Dika Mem reminded me of, you know, during the football Euro when Cristiano Ronaldo missed that penalty and started crying. That's what I was thinking of. This is what he was reminding me of at that time. And, you know, this is something that's going to stick with him in our minds and in his mind for a long, long time. Yet it didn't have to be that way because he had scored the last 3 goals from open play for France to basically drag them through that. And they had it won. Germany knew they weren't getting that ball back. And then they took the timeout. I mean, that is what I have the biggest problem with. Yeah. Like, you know, mistakes happen when you have a ball in your hand, but when you're the coach and you're surveying your land and you decide, oh, I'm going to throw just a little spanner in the works here. Let's see if my players can really fuck us over here. Let's see what they're capable of. And he takes the time out.
Yeah, it's like you said when we were at the press tribune that the German players looked broken already.
It was done.
Yeah.
And I heard Rune Dampke saying to a journalist, I had to turn around and laugh. He was like, I don't know what he was thinking, trying to lob the ball over Julian Custer. Of all the players, of all the lanky-armed players you try to hop a ball over. But you can do anything. I mean, you know, we saw it at least 3 times in the Euro. We've seen Norway do it. We have an alternative award, which people in our Discord mentioned, you know, the pull of Norway. And France simply pulled a Norway today.
We made these ground rules the last time something like this happened is, you know, you don't bounce the ball. You don't jump into the air and try to pass. Dika Mem did that, but then he just didn't do anything. Like he just, like for some reason, he just went blank and every French player ran away from him. Like to the far corners. It was like an NFL play where Dika Mem was the quarterback and he just got swarmed. And you just have to say, like, Renner Zustjens, when he did receive that ball, had seconds to think and get a shot away. And it was really, really good. Oh, like under a block from Dika Mem through Girard's legs or like at his legs. And it was a outstanding goal as well. You can't really, it's not just the mistake. It was capitalized amazingly by Germany. And it is weird. Before we go into the actual extra time as well, I want to just talk about the game a little bit because it came down to that moment. But in the first half, Germany looked terrible. Like they really looked way off. As you mentioned, Chris, Sasha Stat mentioned that they would struggle to get any offensive game going against this French defence. And that's what it looked like in the first half. France were up by as much as 6 goals at one stage and looked like they were back. But then, Ola, do you know what happened to get Germany back into the game?
I guess, was it about that time that they made a change in goal, Germany?
Well, that helped,
That helped because Wolf had 0 saves from 9 shots. But regarding France, I don't know. But they haven't been, like everyone knows, they haven't been playing well. They haven't got that stability. The main factor, for at least for Germany, was that they changed goalkeepers. But other than that, I don't know.
Well, you did mention Prandy in the second half, right?
Yeah. I don't know what Gilles was doing, because they should have made some changes at the backcourt. Min maybe should have played a little bit more than he did, at least. That's maybe one thing. But I mean, the French side, I don't know what's been going on during this championship, but yeah.
Yeah, I like the backcourt, right? That was they have brought in an extra man in Mean, who when he came on in the first towards the end of the first half, he scored a nice goal, and he brings an activity to the team that they don't otherwise have in the backcourt. He's not as static as the rest of them, and you said it there during the game as well about Prandy. You know, he was great in the first half, but then as the second half wore on, Germany had his number, and they just refused to make a change, and then they decided the only change they were going to make was in extra time bringing on Karabatic.
Yeah,
that was a crazy choice, and I really I think Guillaume Gilles has put in an absolute shocker of a performance coaching at this championship. It was I like first selecting the squad, like really the Karabatic brothers, like we've gone over this, but Karabatic just can't contribute at the highest level at all anymore. Like really, he doesn't get anywhere near getting a goal. And to decide to bring him on in those last minutes when he completely gave up on Prandy, it's like he could have done that earlier, he could have mixed it in. You just do it for the very crucial attacks at the very end of extra time, and you say, Karabatic, do it. It was crazy. And Germany were in that second half and extra time, they were fantastic. Gala was really good. Sebastian Heyman has been a really good reinforcement for this German team. He was injured. He's come back and is showing good form. But it has to be just Renner Zistjens that has changed everything for Germany. It's crazy. He's got 14 goals from 21 shots. That is a 22-year-old's shoulder that after 6 games you can take 21 shots and score 14 of them. He just caught on fire and just kept getting better and better. He got that equalizer at full time, then scored 4 of the 6 goals in extra time. And I thought we were going to penalties when France equalised to make it 34-34. And Remily finally decided that like Handball.
Basically.
It took him until the last moment of the game. And he was like, okay, I can actually play. He broke through, scored a nice goal. And it just went out to Zistjens and just took a standing shot in the last seconds. Like, it's wild.
Over Karabatic as well, and past Vincent Girard. And Girard, he didn't make a save in extra time. I don't think we can pin this on him, though. 24 saves.
And they still lost.
And can you... I don't think... I've never seen anything like that before. 24 saves.
Yeah.
And still lost. And he was exceptional. I was saying earlier to Ola before we recorded, like I felt, I had the match report written, and a whole undercurrent of this was the story of the Kiel keeper who never played, and the future of the Kiel keeper coming back in Andy Wolf, and it was a non-contest between the two of them. It's also the end of the career for Vincent Girard, and for Valentin Port, who sadly was the one who missed that last shot, but really also can't be blamed because like the fact that he's still contributing the way he does for this team, it's they're players who can go out with their head held up high after this. But
then who has their head low?
Oh, I think
for France.
Ola, take it away.
You're pinning that on me. Well, I guess, I mean, it's like you said too, Alex. I mean, what was Remili doing for most of the game and most of the Olympics?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Remili. He's averaged like 2 goals a game in the whole tournament, and he just. I don't know what it is because it's not physical. It's almost his attitude on the court he's become big-headed or something, that he doesn't need to run without the ball. He doesn't need to get the ball at speed. But he also just doesn't have the physical gifts of some other players where you can just like bounce through and take players one-on-one. So he just ends up in this kind of in-between where he's not really doing anything for himself or for the team, and that's definitely a big impact on this French team. It's just, I don't know, we've never seen, I don't know, I don't remember when a home nation with such hope got rocked this badly at a tournament.
Sweden in 2022, but it wasn't the Olympics, right?
No.
It is a real killer for them. I want to finish off in this game with asking you, I don't know if we will hear from Germany as well. We spoke to Sebastian Heyman, but last bit on France for me at least. I saw our good friend Rasmus Boysen said he's starting to doubt DKMM now. I think his journey on DKMM has been the inverse to your journey, Alex. You began doubting whether DKMM had the ability to deliver on the big occasions, and over time now you've begun to believe in him as one of the best players in the world, if not the best player. And Rasmus, always saying he's defended him, saw him as the best player in the world, now beginning to doubt whether he's cool and calm under pressure in the big games. He put them in the winning position and then quite literally gave the ball away. I'll ask both of you, where do you put him now in the coolness rating in big situations?
I think that was a freak incident. I don't actually think that it impacts DKMM's performance in that game. He's obviously going to live with that moment for the rest of his life. But we talked about how he was put in that position with that timeout. It was just really poorly executed, but he did score 10 goals. Him and Gerard were the only reason that this game was for France to take. And he hasn't had the best tournament, but he did step up kind of at a bigger stage in this time around. It's just a freak incident. I don't think it impacts his overall play.
Yeah, I agree with you. Although it would have been nice to see him at least scoring 1 or 2 goals after that happened, but after that he basically didn't help France at all, right?
No.
Can't remember him doing anything in the extra time. But I agree with you. I mean, it feels more like a freak accident than that he's not a great player in those situations.
It is a good point. He did wilt after that, and I think again, when you're comparing to the greatest of the great, where I think DKMM is probably aiming, probably shouldn't wilt in extra time. He should take the reins again. But this is just the insanity of that game overwhelmed me. So I can imagine what was the case for players on the court.
Yeah.
Germany, they'll be looking pretty confident going into the semi-final. Yeah, who would have thought it?
Spain. Let's talk about that Spain game then.
We have to.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Spain led, I think, for a total of about 1 minute in the first half. And that was it for the 60 minutes of normal time. Where do you want to start on this one, Alex?
Start with the heartbreak. Let's start with all our heartbreak. And why is it that every time Egypt go out of a championship over the last few, it always comes down to some sort of last second heartbreak? They can't just lose like a normal team by a couple of goals. They have to go to extra time. There has to be some controversy. It has to come down to the last second. So tell me why Egypt couldn't hang on.
Well, for me, the reason they couldn't hang on is because they unfortunately were down to 3 backcourt players after about 12 minutes. So Yahya Omar started the game. He didn't have a great start to the game, a couple of assists, but I think he was 0 from 3 in his shooting, and had seemingly an injury that kept him out for the rest of the time. And the same with their other right back, which meant they were left with 3 playmakers to play left, centre and right back. Yet the brilliant versatility in that team, with Yahya Aldara, Saif Aldara and Ahmed Hasham, meant that they were the better team for the vast majority. And they had it. They in a poor first half from Spain. Egypt were up by 4 towards halftime, and you're looking at it and you're wondering, like, how are Spain here? That's how they get you. That's how they probably got Egypt as well. They're like, what are these guys doing against us in the quarterfinals of Olympic Games? How have they beaten us for the last 6 games in a row? Well, the answer lies within the question, Egypt and everyone else. The fact that they keep beating us, beating us all, the collective handball community, they're beating us down over and over again. We've given up on counting them out. I think we all have a begrudging respect for this team now. And you have to say, tactically, they're spot on. Clutch play, they're spot on. And there were 2 major tactical changes they made in that second half, which for me made all the difference. They went to 5-1 in defense, first of all, which started to isolate certain players in the backcourt. And when you have 3 playmakers playing across the backcourt, that's going to make life very difficult for you, particularly when it's all right-handers. And the second one then, a brilliant 7-on-6 attack, orchestrated by a player you've been a big fan of for a long time, Alex, Ian Tarafeta, and old floppy himself, Alex Dushabayev, who I love. He's a great guy to speak to. He's a wonderful player to watch. We were wondering whether he had, the top level in him. He did at times. Stats-wise, it was a bit of a mixed bag, but he had the referees in his pocket in that game, and not in a hyper cynical way, but I guess they were just leaning, because Egypt have this reputation, I think, as well, that they are heavy hitters. They're all big, strong guys, so every kind of contact, you can lean into, you can take a fall, you can make the referees think, maybe this is pretty bad. And they just they sold penalties, they sold 2 minutes, they did what they needed to do. The dark arts at its finest, and that is why Spain keep getting to these big games. Am I wrong?
Unfortunately not.
I think you've got a good mix. I think you've got a good mix there of tactics, some outstanding players like Alex Gomez with his 9 goals, 3 of them in extra time, including the winning penalty. And just that bending of the rules, which is starting to get annoying. I think it's starting to get annoying. That's why we're not happy that Spain are through. That we wanted Egypt so much to get through. But, Egypt had chances to win it, even at the depths. What were the actions there at the end of normal time and
I'm trying to think, the extra time really stands out to me with the double shot at the end. So they had the time, they had the player advantage, I believe, as well, to equalise. And, they looked in control. They created a good opportunity for themselves. And it was a wonderful one-on-one save. Saif Eldara coming in as a right-hander on the right-back position. Gonzalo Perez de Vargas makes one big save. Okay, the ball comes back out to Egypt, and they have some time left. They overplay one pass, Mohamed Sanad out to the backcourt, then it spills, and there's still 4 or 5 seconds left. But at this point, it's panic stations. It's Dika Mem territory. I'm sorry, Dika, it's not fair. It's panic stations, and Ahmed Hesham, who has been brilliant, and I think it's amazing how he's come back so quickly from injury to play at this level. But with a good 3 or 4 seconds left, instead of passing it to Yahya Aldara, he decides to try and take a bounce shot from 16 meters out, and Gonzalo Perez de Vargas parries it away, and he gets smothered by 20 big Spanish men. So that was it in the end. I mean, Egypt just panicked at the end, and it is heartbreaking. As I say, you've seen it so many times with this team, seeing them fall to their knees in desperation, and you're like, oh, not again. These poor giant men, these lovely, well-spoken giant men. It keeps happening to them, and I think that it's absolutely nothing against Spain. It's just that, you know, you felt like it was Egypt's turn. We were a couple of days ago talking about them getting to a final, and now nothing.
It's like it always is.
Yeah, and you've seen both teams as well a lot, and you know we saw Sweden, Ola, dismantle this Spanish team.
Yeah, I mean, Sweden didn't even have to play at their best to beat Spain quite easily. So at that point, it was I have to be honest, I couldn't quite see them reaching the semifinals back then. But well, they're there.
Here we are.
They're there, and they're probably going to win a nice bronze medal, like they always do at these.
Yeah.
But going from one disappointment to probably the next disappointment in this discussion, and that is more on your side, Ola, as Sweden looked pretty incredible to really stick it to Denmark. For the first time in this competition, Denmark were rattled. And not for the first time, it came down to a decision in the last minutes to decide a crucial game between Denmark and Sweden. But, you know, how was the fact that Sweden came out and put it up to Denmark, did that make it more disappointing that in the end they didn't win?
I mean, Chris and I spoke about it earlier. Sweden can't play much better than they did today. They can't really.
Yeah, and what did you say to me with about 15 minutes to go? Like, at this point now, Sweden took the lead, and you were like, this is when it starts to hurt, that the hope is coming.
Because at that point, it really felt like Sweden could win the game. At least for me, it took until like 45 minutes of the game, and then it felt like maybe still they can achieve something. And then I don't know about that last situation with Bergendahl. I mean, there were a lot of situations during the game that could have gone differently than they did, and I guess this one could have been a penalty, but
could 3 of Pitlick's breakthroughs, right?
I do think that I tried to egg it on Twitter just because, you know, it gets some better reactions, but I think it was a pretty good decision. Landin, I think, let go of Bergendahl at the right time. And, you know, there's an image where Landin is standing inside, but that's because, you know, Bergendahl has pushed back a couple of times and pushed him there. And I think the shot was relatively free. It was just a very difficult shot. You know, it is on that right side for a right-hander, half turn. And it was just this movement of Landin to kind of lift his arms and say, okay, take it from here. I've done my best. And I think that is actually good defending. And while you've seen them given, like, for sure, and there was a couple of feet a little bit inside, but I think ultimately it still required really good save from Nielsen. And Denmark, I don't know if they deserved the win, but they definitely got it in this game.
You spoke to some Swedish players after the game in the mix zone. What were the impressions you were getting? Who were you speaking to?
They were quite mixed. I mean, a few of them were quite upset that the that they didn't get that last penalty, and I guess a few of them. My sense is that they were mostly upset because it felt too much like it felt back in January when they lost in a similar way to Denmark, and they had that game against France as well with the Prandi shot. So, I mean, Bergendahl was quite angry. He definitely felt that it should have been a penalty. Other journalists were showing him that picture I believe you spoke about too, Alex. And he commented on that, saying that, I mean, he felt that it was definitely a penalty. Then we have the Karlsbogård, Jonathan Karlsbogård version. He's quite the... I mean, he's a very positive guy, and he has never said a bad thing about anyone. So he was more like, maybe we shouldn't put ourselves in these situations where we face Denmark in a quarterfinal and where we need to score with a few seconds left of the game to equalize. So and that's a great point as well.
It's a Champions League winner's point of view right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you alluded there that it was probably the best Sweden could play. Let's talk a little more about how well they played, and first of all, the return of Felix Klar, who looked as good as ever.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that was the best thing that... I mean, maybe not the best thing because they didn't beat Denmark, but at least he looked like himself. I mean, he hasn't looked like this for a lot of months now, considering he told us that the heel injury has been troubling him since at the end of the season for Magdeburg. So he was amazing, especially in the first half where Sweden weren't. I think they played better in the second half. So in the first half, it was much up to him to keep them in it, and he certainly did. I think he had like 5 goals on 5 attempts in the first half, and maybe a few assists.
Doubled his tournament tally in one half.
Yeah. He was amazing. Unfortunately for Sweden, it wasn't enough, but he can play much better than he did.
And Alex, I just want to get a bit of perspective from you on this Danish team, seeing as you were able to watch it from a removed, calm position. You said it was the toughest test they've had. I think we all agree with that. Henrik said it as well. Are you happy with how they came through that test?
I think so. You have to look at a scenario where both Danish goalkeepers didn't have a good game. There was Landin with his 3 saves, 15%, and then Emil Nielsen came on, just 4 saves from 18 shots. So it's a unique scenario where you have these 2 amazing goalkeepers not contributing to a win. And Matthias Giesel started off really poorly. He only had 1 goal in the first 40 minutes. So all of those factors come in, and Denmark were still able to stick in there. And really, there was a couple of times where Sweden were coming back or really accelerating. It looked like they were going to go into the lead and kind of continue. And each time, Denmark pegged them back. Like there was never a gap of more than 1 goal for Sweden. And Simon Putlik was just really, really incredible throughout. He had 9 goals and 8 assists. And even at the end, they almost lost it. Mikkel Hansen missed the penalty, which was a huge surprise. I think we all expected him. He was 5 from 5. It's like 4 from 4 from the 7-meter line. Before then, smashed it against the crossbar, and you're thinking, "Oh shit, what's going to happen?" And they still closed it out. Then, they also had a similar situation where, Klar scored, put it back to 1 goal. They had 8 seconds, a timeout was taken. Nikolai Jakobsen says to his team in the timeout, "Don't do anything stupid." And they didn't do anything stupid. There was someone to come to the player with the ball. They passed it around and they won the game. And, they ticked all the boxes there.
Yeah, that's it. Completing a post-timeout game kill is all you need to see from a team to realise, hey, They're not a bunch of idiots. Yes. We'll wrap up quickly then on their opponents in the semi-final on Friday. Slovenia. Hey, the Eurodolonet said to us a couple of days ago that didn't matter what happened now, forget your philosophy in handball, you just got to go and win a quarter-final. And they went and won it really well. And another massive performance from Alex Flach. 11 goals. Like, this guy is... I'm excited for Aalborg again next season, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, like Alex Flach's come out.
Yeah.
Like 11 goals from 12. He is in the vein of Giesel and Putlik, where he's this modern backcourt player who primarily like drives and tries to break through, but can shoot at the same time, makes really good decisions, and like there's just two of them for Slovenia in Blas Jans, who had 9 goals himself, in a slightly different way, but just Jans is a similar type of efficient machine of a player. And Slovenia were really good, or were Norway really bad? That's the question.
Well,
And I think you know where I'm leading with this.
Yeah, go on, just continue. Go on, Alex.
I don't know. What the hell happened to Sander Sagosen is my question. He has been absolutely terrible in this tournament. He's averaged 2 goals on 38% shooting. That's absolutely diabolical. We were talking about how, Tobias Grandal in there gives him space and relieves him of that responsibility of Norway, but we didn't mean that it completely relieves him.
Yeah, it meant
just stop playing.
He could free himself for a game like today, and where he would then come up with 12 goals and win a game for his team. But nah. And again today, 3 goals, 38%, right to form. It's I don't know.
He's just so he definitely has lost a bit of explosive power through his very severe injury, which is understandable. But because he used to just be able to do this incredible thing where kind of at a walking pace and be able to just spring up in the air, a meter and a half, and take a shot at full power. He just can't do that now, but I don't think he's realized that, because he still tries to walk up and take that jump shot. The jump is lower, the shot is weaker, and 38% of those shots go in. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
No, it's a real pity. Thankfully, at the start of this competition, I was enticed by Norway, but I didn't knock Spain back. I refused to fall into the same trap. I fell into the same trap with Norway. At least I held my line on Spain and not predicting anything with them.
Yeah, it's hard to know where it goes from here. I mean, they do. There are players who are stepping up for them. There are young players stepping up for them. Sander Sagosen is not that old. As we know, players can reinvent themselves. I think maybe it's time for him to start trying to figure out how he's going to reinvent himself and not rely on that. Norway, how we're given a golden opportunity here. We said in the last show that both Norway and Slovenia will look at this as a great opportunity as a quarter-final. And then the winner gets basically a free hit against Denmark. Whatever happens. But it's Slovenia to go through. And
there was an interview after the last game against Germany where Urs Zorman implied relatively directly that they threw that last game to avoid a tougher matchup and get Norway in the semi-final. And hey, it worked. Yeah. It worked for them. They've made it to the semi-final. And the reason why I bring this up is, their losses in the group stage were against Spain and Germany. You can probably ignore that Germany loss. And it was just that opening game against Spain, which is also weird. other than that, you know, they beat Sweden and Croatia. That's 2 big scalps beating Norway. I think they'll probably put it up against Denmark. Different to what we've seen in kind of previous competitions, but I think this is a different Slovenia.
Well, one thing we've learned, Ola, being here for the last couple of weeks, is that every 2 days is a brand new tournament.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I mean, I still think that Denmark will win, but maybe it'll be tighter than people believe. But everything else, but at least a 5-goal win for Denmark would surprise me. I have to say. Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, and that's tighter than what people might think.
I think Denmark can relax now. They've beaten Sweden and they're on to the semifinals, and they can just relax. But I mean, Slovenia, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you're really writing them off here.
Yeah, I am.
Well, one thing that's kind of popped up for me in the win over Norway and the win over Sweden earlier is that they're very good at controlling the game once they get the lead. If they get a couple of goals ahead, it seems like nobody's coming back against them. Like that was the case with Sweden and Norway here. Like they really managed the game very well, and that is something for maybe to look out for in the Denmark game. If Slovenia managed to get an early run, Vlad goes on a run of goals, they go up by 2 or 3. How they try to keep control of the match.
Yeah, and they get their opponents frustrated, I believe.
Yeah.
At least they did it to Sweden. They were extremely frustrated in that game. So maybe they can do that to Denmark as well. That's their chance at least.
They do have a little bit of that with Zorman as the coach and a little bit of Balkan, you know, in there. You know, they wouldn't consider themselves Balkan, I'd say, but some of them do. At least they're Balkan adjacent, and they've got that little bit of shithousery in there as well.
That will be a better game than we think. Again, just Alex Vlad has really changed the fortunes of this Slovenian team. I got conscious of the fact that we didn't really talk about Karabatic playing his last ever game.
We did a whole podcast, but
we did a whole episode on that. That's what I'm saying. Anyone who's listened to this, listen to episode 251, where we did a whole podcast on that. It's not like he did anything in this tournament to change that conversation. So
I'm asking, when's our Vincent Gerard appreciation podcast? Yeah,
I thought I had put Vincent Gerard into my fantasy team, Chris. I actually thought I did. I had him in there at one point. Big brain, Alex Kulesh is like, yeah, this is gonna make things happen. But I kept.
Where are you?
Goals.
Where are you in the league at the moment?
Snaps.
Where am I?
I'm now 10th. I think you're up to 5th.
You were number 1 at one point, right?
That didn't last very long.
Renner Zushin's got you a nice 555 points. So,
yes, the other semi-final, Spain-Germany. What do you reckon?
Oh, that's a tough one. Boring Spain against.
Really joining the tone of this podcast very well, Ola. you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I mean, Germany. It feels like they're on the way of achieving something great, considering what they did at the Euros, and now what they're doing in Lille. So I don't know, maybe I would say that I'm leaning towards Germany, but this game feels extremely hard to pick out a favorite in.
Mm-hmm. Alex?
Yeah, so Germany did beat Spain in the group stage, of course. That was a really close game. It was level with 2 minutes to go, and Germany pulled ahead at the very end. It's gonna be I don't know. Anytime Spain play at this stage, it turns into a real brawl. Again, you know, we predicted a couple of extra times in the quarterfinal. If I was going to pick one of the 2 games, this is the one that might go to extra time. I would put it on Germany as Germany have actually been good. I think we're just like scared to admit that. Like what is stopping us from saying that Germany are an actually good team? and should be going in as favourites. I'm just thinking of kind of emotions, but both teams won in extra time in terms of fatigue and emotions. Both teams have rotated squads pretty well. So physically they should be going in good shape. So on that, I do think it's going to be Germany.
I'm not having Spain fool me again. Spain will win this one. We'll talk quickly about the women's semi-finals coming up as well. So there is one Swedish team in the semi-finals, Ola. Not the team we probably expected at the start of this championship. Sweden have been very impressive all the way through. More impressive at the beginning, and then they've had to battle through games, but they're getting those wins, and now they have the ultimate test. Can they do a Germany and upset the hosts in front of 27,000 people?
Well, the short answer is no, but I completely wrote them off when Anna Lagerqvist got injured severely earlier this season. I thought they were at the max a quarterfinal team, but they have played a lot better than that, actually, and they have impressed me in a way that they haven't played at their best. Maybe only the only game was against Norway. Then they played at their top level, and they've still won matches against Hungary in the quarterfinals. They weren't that great, and they still managed to get a win. Most of it, I think, is that they are extremely well coached. And they're great tactically. They have they show a lot more courage in the games now than they used to do before. And normally when they, back in the days when they had one great game, you always knew that the next game they would most definitely lose and play very poorly. It's not like that anymore. So, they're closer to France and Norway and Denmark now than they've ever been, but beating France, which they have, I think, the last 27 games, they've won 2 against France.
One of them was at the Olympics, though, last time.
Yeah. So, crazier things maybe have happened, but I think France they're just too damn good at every position, basically. Maybe except in goal, because Johanna Bunsen has been the best goalkeeper of the Olympics by far, I believe. That's probably the only chance Sweden has.
How do you win final weekends, Alex?
With a goalkeeper that makes 22 saves in the quarterfinal, like Johanna Bunsen. It was also, that was the game of the quarterfinals, where they beat Hungary in extra time. I thought it was a really great game by Hungary. I liked seeing them kind of challenge Sweden and really went back and forth, but I think Nina Koppang has been my revelation of the whole tournament. She has really stepped up to pretty stratospheric levels, where she's really the one that is taking over in extra time and winning games for Sweden, including the big shot at the very end to equalize 5 seconds left. So it was exciting. But I think I don't want to be kind of perceived like we don't care about women's handball as much as men's, because we spent the first hour of this podcast talking about the men's side. But all I have to say is it's Denmark, Norway and France in the semi-finals of a competition for the 5th championship in a row. The last time that all 3 of those teams weren't in the semi-finals was 2019 World Championships and the Olympics in 2021. And Sweden were 5th or in the semi-final for all of those championships. So they're always there. And I don't want to be mean, but I'm just a little bit disappointed in this women's tournament. The quarterfinal round didn't quite have the spark that the men's side did. But I do think the semi-final round will. France are probably strong favourites. They've looked amazing. But Sweden have been very good. And Norway-Denmark is, I think, as close as we've seen those two teams competing against each other at the highest level. They've been really close, but I really think that it's a coin flip this time around.
Yeah, I think the Denmark were hyper impressive in the way that they managed to beat Netherlands in what we saw as a proper 50-50 clash between the two of them. And Norway, for as well as they played that quarterfinal and how comfortably they won that quarterfinal, that victory was based on defense and counterattack. The attacking play, 6v6, was a bit messy, and we've when we're looking to poke at Norway and seeing where the potential problems are, it has been their turnover ball in attack, and there was still plenty of that against Brazil. They will not be able to run over Denmark in the same way that they did Brazil, and so there's totally a door there.
Like they did Denmark in the group stage when they won 27-18.
Yeah, they won't be able to. They will not. There's no way in hell they're going to be able to do that.
No.
Yeah, that was. We know exactly what that was. That was Norway
Revenge game.
That was a revenge game, and now it's a good old semi-final between the two of them, and we know that one is going down to the wire. Like, need I remind you all of, well, the Euro final in 2022 and the semi-final of the World Championship when Henny Reistad scored that wonder goal to win it. I have a feeling there'll be something similar there. It's just it's gonna be oh so tight. I think they've all progressed, these four teams, since December in different ways, and so but no team has like jumped up, to a level where they're a million miles better than anyone. I think there is, honestly, I can see a path to victory for all four teams this weekend, and that's why I think the women's semi-finals will be a lot more talked about after the games tomorrow, after the games on Thursday and on Saturday.
Agreed. So who do you have winning?
I hope, anyway.
In Denmark, Norway. I see you talking around that.
I think Denmark. It's Denmark's time.
A Denmark double on the men's and women's on the cards.
Oh, then they'll lose to France in the final.
What about you, Ola? Denmark or Norway?
Yeah, I would like to say Denmark as well, because they have been playing better and better during the tournament. But I mean, I can't pick against Henny Reistad. Much like we spoke about Felix Klar getting some rest during the competition. I mean, Reistad should be, as long as she's feeling okay, she should be ready to go and give it to Denmark. I think Norway will win, but I agree with you. It will probably go down to the wire. It won't be a 9-goal win this time.
And Alex?
Norway to do it. They've got something in this tournament. They've got the itch. They need that gold medal. Stina Oftedal needs that gold medal. There's just something about Norway that they're refusing to let this one slip. I think that's why I would actually prefer to see a Norway-France final. I know we've seen plenty of them, but a Norway-France final where it's the golden generation of Norway fighting for a gold medal versus a home French crowd, that would be beautiful.
We haven't seen it in an Olympic setting, at least, in the final. So that's something new.
Yeah.
if and when it happens. Okay, well, we'll find out very soon. Thank you all for listening, and we will be back with you as a semi-final recap. Thank you, Ola, for joining us in this late night recording.
Thank you.
You had no choice, as we're sharing a hotel room.
Might as well join.
You might as well join in. And thank you, Alex. Thank you all for listening. Talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.